Hello and welcome to the second episode of Speaking Tangents. I am Orion and with me here today is...
Fidas. Thank you for joining in.
Welcome. So, how are you doing, man?
Like on every other Friday, I'm kind of tired, but quite excited for this next episode of our epic talks. So last time it was also your birthday, and you opened with talking about the old Greeks and philosophers, and I saw something. I'm trying to find the exact picture because I wanted to quasi quote what that guy said on the internet, but for some reason I cannot find the picture. Anyways, so there was this guy on LinkedIn, influencer, right? Who
thought leader.
Right, thought leader. Yes, there are thought leaders there.
Yeah.
And he said something along the lines of internet democratized information and stuff like that. And knowing your background and the fact that you studied Old Greek, I would like you to remind everyone what demos kratos meant and what democracy stood for, at least in its original form.
All right. So that's actually a good segue from the last episode. So, yeah, let me start by saying no, it didn't. Because in the actual sense and meaning of the word, to democratize means... like by definition, because it has the word demos in it, which means the population, right? So the people, or as we would say in German, das Volk, right? So it didn't, because demos means the people, the population, and for like not everybody has access to it yet, and still, right? So it's just not that. And even though technically speaking, everybody could contribute, in reality, not everybody is really able to. And the more power, money, resources you have, the more you influence it, right? There are a few big companies that basically decide how the internet looks and what it does and does not do and can and cannot do. And that's not democratic by definition, right?
For sure, not. Yeah.
What I would say though, and that goes not only for the internet as such, but for technology in general, be it the fire or, like the first Flintstone tools or the internet or AI, it always enabled humanity. And it opened doors that were not there before.
For sure. I mean, a friend of mine commented on the on this idea, and he said something along the lines of, "Yes, but no, because you in a democracy, people have to be convinced on something and to choose something," which is. Yes and no. I mean, people have the power and the right of choosing, and So if we're talking just democracy, as in choosing your leaders who will lead you, so the political sense, it's still not true, because this reminds me of something else, which I also wanted to say also last time. But it's good to keep something in reserve. So again, we actually never truly introduced ourselves. So I'm a musician who also worked as a designer for many years. That's how we met. We worked in the same company. I was doing design, you're doing development and programming and more techie stuff. And so that's my background. We can go at lengths about like each other's story and stuff, and maybe we'll do some at some point. But what I meant at some point, I was in a studio, and I met a guy who was the A&R representative of a label. So A&R means artist and repertoire, and they used to be, let's say, the people who would choose who will be the next band to be produced, to be released, to be everything, right?
They're like a talent scout, so to speak.
Yes, yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
Mhm.
And this guy told me, well, it wasn't just me. There were many of us in the studio, but he said something that really annoyed me at the time because I was young and, hot-blooded and everything. And I held the world in a different view than I do now because, well, I went through a bit more life since then. And he said something along the lines of, nobody is ever asking for anything. So people are only receiving stuff, so they either like it or don't like it, and that's it. So you don't have any say in people's tastes and people, let's say, artistic education of sorts. And that annoyed the hell out of me. I was like, no, with good music you can change people and you can do this and you can do that and so on and so forth. Yeah, it's not true. So people in general, they don't know what they want. They almost never ask truly for stuff. They are just given stuff and they're like, yeah, I like this one, or I don't like that one. And that's about it. I mean, and it's not something to even annoy or get any kind of reaction. It's just it is what it is. This is what it is. I mean, this ties in with many other things, but regarding what we were talking about, democracy and democratizing information in the internet era, now people are just being offered stuff, are just being given things, and they don't truly choose. They just settle in for something that's available, but they don't, it's not like one of those tribe meetings when, the sages gather on and yes, we have to decide the good of it. No, it's not that. They just have something and they go for it, period.
How are paywalls democratic? Like, we don't have to go beyond that, I think.
Yeah.
As I said, it's an enabler and it opens doors for the good and the worse. Right. And of course, there is the hope that it's going to be free, like in the sense of libre and democratic, and for the you could say for the betterment of man, if you want it to be like a
a bit idealistic.
Idealistic.
Right? Yeah.
And I still have hopes for the internet and for the future to be that. At the same time, the core of the problem, as you said, is people don't know what they want for a few reasons. First of all, for huge amounts of the global population, the basic needs are met nowadays.
Yeah, more than ever, actually.
Yes.
In our history, in our recorded history, I should say.
In recorded history, yes. So I am aware that there are still regions in the world with huge numbers of population where that is not the case. But especially for what we used to call the West, that has been like that for the better part of like 50 years now, I would say. Maybe
like, even a bit more, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if I think Germany and Europe after World War II, 50s and the 60s were still pretty rough, and then after that it's gotten better and better and better. So let's say for the last 50 years. And that puts us in a very unique situation because it made us lose focus, so to speak. Before that, and if you go even further back, the needs were pretty clear. You need shelter, right? You need food, and you need a safe spot to sleep, to oversimplify grossly, right? So we didn't just fulfill that with capitalism being ubiquitous, the sheer amount of choices you have and that you can make, the choice in quotes here, because on the surface there is a lot of choice, but if you dig deeper, it's usually the same 5 to 10 names that keep popping up, right? Like a kind of meme in Germany is Nestle, right? Everything is Nestle. And if it comes to tech, and if you want to stay in that realm, it's always the same, like big five,
Yeah.
right? So choice in quotes here. And I think that's one of the problems our democracies face. We've reached a point where through social media and through these algorithmic apps, let's say, right? These companies, they influence what we want. They tell us what we want. They tell us what we want to consume, what we want to buy, what we want from life, from politics, and so on and so forth. And I think that's one of the downsides of having an internet that's accessible like that for at least so many people, let's say.
And I would say more or worse, they even spy on us so they can direct us to where they want to sell whatever to us, be it an idea or a product or actually whatever.
Whatever, yeah.
It's super insidious, I have to say. And yeah, so there's no such thing as democracy of information. I don't think there ever was.
Me neither.
Maybe a first trial, let's say, was when Gutenberg invented the printing machine, the printing press. And this kind of, well, unfortunately started a huge religious war. And
another one.
Yeah, but also people started getting unfettered access to information, because until then, until the printing press, owning books was unbelievable luxury. They were handwritten by highly trained monks.
Yeah.
And they were one of a kind, each and every one of them. So if we think from that point of view, sure. I mean, we do have access to everything and anything nowadays. But
is that true?
Compared to those times and compared to before printed word, right? So not written word, but printed. Now, I don't know if I've given this example last time, but there was that thing about researching a paper for university, and my younger colleagues, they didn't know even where to look. So this is I think the bigger problem online. You have everything, but you don't know where to look because nobody's kind of giving you the map, the map of the land. So you're kind of lost in a way, and all these other companies, be it Meta, be it whatever it is, they keep on, I observed this thing. So I'm using Facebook for promoting my music and stuff. I'm not a Facebook proponent or Instagram or anything, but I have many connections on it, and kind of helps my cause in a way, whatever. What I observed since maybe the end of last year, I keep on getting that bell, like, you have a message, you have received something, even though I haven't received anything. So they kind of force you or trick you into opening the app and using it a bit. And then you see an article, and then you see 2 pictures, and then you see something one of your friends or acquaintances posted, and all of a sudden you spend 15 to 30 minutes there, even though your entire intention was to do something else. And then I have that thing. So I think, somewhere on the spectrum of ADHD, undiagnosed, and I don't truly intend to get diagnosed because I will get pills or whatever. But I I tend to get easily distracted, and I think this is
What?
yeah,
Tangents much?
I don't know, man. Where was I? Yeah, exactly. So not only that, but I think the entire social media, to also tie in with the last episode, it's kind of a tangent machine, and it's kind of a ADHD machine in a way, which is freaking scary. I mean, we were always like distracted people, mostly us, the more artistic ones, let's say. But what this thing does, it's kind of puts it on steroids, and
Yeah.
it's scary in more than one way, for sure. But so going back to where we started from, I don't think there's any democracy on the internet. I mean, also our modern concept of democracy has nothing to do with the original Greek concept, which not everyone had the right to vote.
Yeah.
You had to tick certain boxes. And yeah, I mean, I was thinking maybe trying to approach some lighter subjects for our podcast. Let's go full on politics. So yeah,
Okay, let's go.
We'll never choose lighter topics. By the way, so I was thinking about this thing at some point. Why is the right of voting by default for everyone? Why is it? And I will kind of also answer this open question with another one, or a comparison. You are not allowed to drive a vehicle without having a certain permit and a certain certification, because it's dangerous for the rest of people who are on the roads, either as pedestrians or drivers of anything from bikes to rollers nowadays, the e-scooters, to whatever, right? So if that's dangerous, because you would be a danger to society if you wouldn't have that proof of, yes, you can drive, why is it a given that you can vote, even that your vote can be easily manipulated? And you could be easily manipulated, but by all the social media and media in general, like it used to be in the past, right? You were talking about like what the Nazis did and Goebbels with the radio and everything, right? The propaganda, which was like super well done for the time. And it's kind of redone in a different way today. Why does everyone over the age of whatever it is in the certain country, 18 here in Europe, gets the right to vote without a minimal test, like a minimal test? And my proposal would be, before you give your thoughts on this, you should be able to know what's the name of the country you're living in. You should be able to know, you should know the capital of the country you're living in. You should know the continent you're living on. And you should know the name of the planet you're living on, because you might wonder like what people respond to that. It's just whatever. And like basic maths, like can you do a subtraction? Can you do addition? Can you do multiplying and all that? So I would do like a minimal like geography, minimal political thing, minimal everything. Kind of like I did for this citizenship test here in Germany, which was way more involved, I would say, than what I'm proposing. And if that's what you're doing to get the citizenship, why? It's like the right to vote. Yes, it's in the constitution. So yeah, it's a right. I think, well, you know what I think. So what do you think?
So without thinking too much, knee-jerk reaction is hell no.
Okay.
Let's see if I can put some actual rationale behind it. I'll start at the end. You said you had to do this test.
Mm-hmm.
where you had to apply and prove that you have a certain type and amount of knowledge about the country you live in, the system it has, and so on and so forth. You do that when you apply for citizenship, and you don't do that if you're born here, because the assumption is that the system brings you up in a way where it teaches you these things. So that's the reason why you have to do this test when you want to get the citizenship, but you
Right.
don't have to do it when you turn 18 because you're born here, right? So, and I think that's a fair and valid approach to this. In general, we could go into the nitty-gritty and details of this whole Einbürgerungs thingy, the getting citizenship thingy, because it's by no means perfect, but I think the general idea makes sense. So you propose to me it sounded like a general like intelligence and understanding kind of test, and especially for us Germans that's always dangerous territory,
Okay.
because if you start going down that road, where is the guarantee that you won't get to a place where you don't say arbitrarily, let's say everything that's under 100 IQ is not worth living, it's not good for society, so let's get rid of
okay.
that.
I see your
You
point.
know?
Okay.
So you go there really, really quickly. And there's another argument there in my mind. Who decides what we test and optimize for? Who decides that? Right? So let's say the German federal government decides. Okay, so today we have a so-called Koalition der Mitte, right? So a coalition of parties that say they are in the middle of the political spectrum, let's say. We could argue about that
Oh
as
yeah,
well.
they're
but-
not. But anyways, yeah.
anyways. But let's assume in 2.5 years, a party from one of the political fringes takes over. Doesn't even matter if it's the left or the right. Now we optimize for what they think is best. So just having that is by definition against the Constitution. And the Constitution is like that to avoid these types of things. And the last argument that I have on top of my mind right now is bureaucracy, dude.
Yeah, okay. No, so wait. What I meant, it's kind of like, even though I know people would cheat and people would find their way through any kind
They'll
of test,
game the system, yeah, of course.
but I'm pretty sure there is a way of randomizing a basic kind of a test. So, man, I mean, I don't think anyone and everyone should have the right to vote. And I know I sound dictatorial, and maybe it's my
A little.
post-communist upbringing in Romania, but I think you should earn the right to vote. I think you should prove that you're a citizen who knows what they're doing there, because it's dangerous.
Okay, so for the sake of argument, let's say I buy into the premise. We don't want everybody to just vote because we don't want everybody to drive a car, right? So to speak. And so
Yeah.
if we don't want everybody to drive a car, we don't want everybody to decide on where the future of the country goes politically. Okay. So let's say we buy into the premise. How do we guarantee that people that pass this test don't make stupid political decisions? And how do we define stupid political decision?
So, for example, a party who promises you that they will take you back to the glory days, but they never mention what those glory days mean, right?
Jawohl.
And you can find many examples of that. I think it's already like a huge red flag, and anyone who's willing to go back to whatever mythological pasts,
The good old times, yeah.
right? How do you define the good old times, right? So there are countless interviews with, for example, MAGA Americans who say that the good old times were before the 1950s.
1850s, I heard recently.
1850s.
What?
But most of them kind of agree like before 1950s.
Yeah.
And some of them even say out loud, so before the women had the right to vote.
Yeah.
So they're like openly sexist and openly xenophobic, and this is what I mean, right? So it's about more than the basic fact of eliminating some peoples that are they don't have the rights to vote. Is not that, but you have to at least have a common. So that's just my opinion, and of course I really appreciate that you don't agree with it. But I think the people, like, just as you're required to take an exam so people can see, yes, you learned something in school and now you're qualified in that particular area, be it whatever it is, right? So going from basic school, and at the end of the semester, there's like a bigger test, to a bachelor degree, to whatever else it might be out there. And I know, for the sake of randomizing data and having a nice Gaussian distribution and all that, you should let as many people as possible. But I don't think, especially now in the era of internet, I don't think that the state is doing a good job preventing people getting radicalized. I don't think school is doing a great job in this regard as well, even though I have to say, I think Germany is a bit ahead of the curve because of their pasts, and because Germany took the entire freaking blame. Even there were many other countries who also did messed up stuff, and they were like, yeah, well, no, it was Germany's fault. We're good now, And
I mean, it was our fault, but
yeah, I mean, wait a second.
we did a good job of facing the past, I would say.
True.
Or a better job than
way
most.
better.
Yes.
Most of the rest are kind of digging their head in their sand, like, some of them like, yes, but we have good food, and some of them, I don't know, it wasn't us, we were just pressure from outside. Like, come on, you did it, and it's on you. So this is what I mean. I know that why it sounds really like ding, 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 not a great idea to you, but I'm coming from a country where people are getting enticed, like for €10 they will change their vote. There are still people like that. So,
but how would a test like that change that? Because
they would never qualify for voting, trust me. So there are people who barely made it out of the 4th grade. I'm not kidding. And they don't know the name of the country they're living in. And this is not, so I'm not slandering Romania now for whatever reason I might have. I've been seeing interviews. True, they might be biased because they're coming from rural Romania and some truly undeveloped places. But there's also some truth to everything. So why I'm saying this is I'm actually quite afraid of the next election cycle here in Germany, because yes, one of the extremist parties are gaining momentum, and this is because the current government, this middle of the road government, is doing, I don't know if they're like consulting like some LLM for like the worst ideas ever or something, but it kind of sounds like that, right? So it's comically stupid in a way.
yeah. Okay, so where do I start? I still don't buy the whole a test would make this problem go away kind of thinking, because even if I would agree that this test would make the average voter, in quotes, more intelligent and more adept at voting, let's say, I would argue it makes manipulation of these voters easier.
How?
And, well, you have a standardized test.
Mm-hmm.
Even if it's randomized, it in the end optimizes for the same thing.
Okay.
So the permissiveness of this test for a certain group of people is basically the result, right? So if you're a certain type of person with a certain average education and knowledge and way of being and so on, is more likely to pass this test. So the resulting subset of people from the population is going to be more similar and more homogeneous in behavior than the population in general. Meaning it is easier to do targeted manipulation because you do not have to account and spread for so many different behaviors and socioeconomic backgrounds and all that. Because you have a standardized test where everybody needs to go through, you eliminate a lot of this variance. So
Right.
now you have
Okay.
to fine-tune your propaganda, your machinery, whatever, especially nowadays, which is much easier to do than in the old days, let's say.
Yeah, true. Okay.
So manipulation becomes easier, not harder. Nobody is guaranteed to be immune to manipulation, right? So I would say of myself that I'm quite skeptical and I am harder to manipulate. It still happens, right? So I don't think it does anything for us on that front at all.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's just my my fear of a sudden change of direction, even for this country. Actually, Romania just went through presidential elections that could have gone like really
bad.
really bad. So, me and my wife, we also voted from here, from the diaspora, and I was quite taken aback by many of my fellow Romanians who live and work here in Germany, and they basically benefit of the entire German system, which is not perfect, but is doing more things for them than the Romanian system would be at the same time or in comparison. And they were still openly promoting, and they were actually, some of the voters, trying to convince other voters to vote for this pro-Kremlin candidate. Actually, up until that voting day, I haven't even heard the name of this guy. So he was a complete unknown who got promoted on TikTok to people who don't even know the capital of the country they're living in. Be it here in Germany, the host country they're working in. So this is why I would propose such a basic, so not even anything compared to the citizenship test, which is a different kind of test. And still it was kind of tricky because you also had to learn some stuff from the Grundgesetz, from the constitution here, and so some legal stuff, and some historical stuff, and the German idea of the separation of power, which is different than Romania's, for example.
Than many.
I would say, I don't know if it's quite unique. I don't know that much about most political systems, but it has a certain flavor. So it's different enough. And it also ties in with the fact that it's a federal state, so there are many other governments, and some of them have more freedom, let's say, than others.
They are
Anyways,
more powerful inside the system.
true, right?
Bavaria.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, where we actually live, but not only that, but actually I'm quite afraid of this basic level of manipulation. So I totally gel with your idea that yes, the propaganda machine would find a way. It's kind of like water; it always finds a way to get to those people. And I've also seen and severed ties with some friends and acquaintances who were basically compromised. I mean, they are full and overtly proponents of Russia is not that bad and we should be friends with them and we should go back into closer friendship and so for anyone who knows anything about history, and this might take a very dark turn all of a sudden, let's say that after the war, Romania had some things happen to it, and it got communism by force. It had to be, the king was let's say convinced to leave country, and the repression that came.
That's a good way to say it.
The repression that came was horrible, and people talk, more casually, I would say, about what Nazi Germany did, but not what communist states did, which was the same thing. There were also concentration camps, and they eliminated the elites, the intellectuals, homosexuals, minorities. So it was the exact same thing under a new symbolism and under a new state mantra, let's say.
Yeah, so I suggest everybody who likes reading to read The Gulag Archipelago by Solzhenitsyn. Jesus.
Solzhenitsyn, yes.
Yes, exactly what I said.
Exactly. I mean, but caution, it will do a number on you.
Yeah.
So that book is not for the lighthearted, let's say.
It isn't, but it's important.
It is.
I want to go a little bit brighter because I see where you're coming from, and I'm also worried what could happen if the AfD, which is the right-wing party right now,
which is not an alternative at all.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's a very right-wing party in Germany that's being on the rise right now in many of the states and also on the federal level, and I can totally see the next government be with them involved, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
I don't agree that the state has something to do about it, as you said earlier, but there is something we as society can and should do. So I know that a lot of people, and also a lot of people in my friend or amongst my friends and people I talk to, they have this impression of a very split and polarized society, and it's not that. It if you spend a lot of time online, and even if you open a regular paper newspaper, it might appear like that, because unfortunately that's what the algorithm enforces and that's what sells. But if you talk to everyday people, most of the people are not extreme people. They have their worries, they face the same issues we most do, And I think what we can do as a society for each other and for ourselves is take each other seriously, right? And talk about things, because the other person, even if it's hard to assume, they usually always have at least one point, right? And if we can manage to do that just in our own sphere of influence, let's say, right? So there was a time where I used to follow Dr. Jordan Peterson for a while.
Me too.
So I didn't always agree with him on things, and the later in his career, let's say, it got the less I agreed with. But he said something that really stuck with me. He said, everything we do has consequences, good and bad, because each one of us knows 100 people and interacts with 100 people every day, right? And
more or less, yeah.
more or less. And these 100 people, or even if it's 50, these 50 to 100 people, they know and interact with 50 to 100 people every day. And so all the good you do, it's not good, it's really good. And by the same token, all the bad you do it's not bad, it's really bad, because it multiplies and it's basically exponential, right?
Right.
And so coming back to the whole what we can do as a society thing is, hold on, I need to. Philip told me about something I didn't know about. It's called microphone discipline. So you have to try and be at a constant distance to the microphone. So I'm trying to
yes. I mean,
do that.
It's way better. And by the way, I'm also doing this, turning my head, and of course the volume will fluctuate and all the frequencies. But I mean, again, we're human, and it's not a discussion between two LLMs. So
thankfully,
yes,
so
exactly.
I'm trying to do my way of talking with gesticulation and stuff.
Yes, I mean, we're all doing that. And by the way, whenever you'll hear some bumps and some other sounds, it's either this wonderful dog, which belongs to my counterpart, or is my kids slamming doors or going to look for something somewhere. So yeah, it's even though the subjects are very dead serious and sometimes kind of grim, because me, mostly, we're still in a pretty casual environment.
Thankfully, yes.
Yeah.
So going back to my thought. So the good we do is actually much better than we thought in the result, and so is the bad much worse than we thought. And if we can just talk and try, like, in good faith, that's the important part.
Right.
We don't have to agree on everything.
No.
But in good faith, try to understand what the other person is saying, where they're coming from. I think it is going to do much better for our communities and for society as a whole. That's one thing. And the other thing, we should do and have to do much, much, much better when it comes to education.
All right.
Education. It doesn't matter if you go to school for 4 years, for 9 years. I mean, you have to go for 9 years in Germany as a minimum.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
You do?
Yeah, we call it Schulpflicht. And if you don't go to school and, like, your parents don't call in sick or anything, they might send police to actually get you.
I know that bit.
So yeah.
But I didn't know about this. I mean, but wait a second. I mean, does that mean that there's a policy that's more or less along the lines of no kid left behind if everyone is required to have these 9 years of school? Because I'm pretty sure that some kids might have difficulties, right? I mean, even if we go with the most Pi mal Daumen, as you say around here, so kind of like a rule of thumb, and we take something like the Pareto law, like the 80-20. Maybe 20% of the kids might have some issues.
Well, Schulpflicht means you have to be there physically.
Oh, okay.
You know, I mean, in theory, the system is meant to, or was meant, let's put it like that, to not lose kids on the way, kind of. But at the same time, it was designed to also produce factory workers mostly.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why we need to do more for education. But that's the key. We need to educate people. We talked about it last
time
with how we have to teach our kids to deal with modern technology, with modern media, how to find their way, so to speak, because we all want a map of the world, of life, of the internet, whatever. There isn't. But there are navigation tools, let's say, you know? And I think education is very, 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 very important here.
It's, I mean, of paramount importance. But, you know, I was thinking of everything you just said now. And I also see your point of view. I mean, you were born into a democratic country who, I mean, spent a lot of time separated from the eastern part of it, which that eastern part kind of got left behind because of communism and because of all the, well, everything that communism brought or brings along, because it doesn't bring anything good. But you know, I was thinking, so I'm a musician and I'm also a trained engineer, sound producing engineer. So yeah, don't get any other ideas.
Still engineering though.
Still engineering, true. But there is a concept which is called comb filtering. So whenever you play music, let's say in a room, or any sound, but let's say something that features more than one frequency, it starts to bounce off walls with 320 meters per second, or 1,234 kilometers per hour, I think. I hope I'm not totally wrong. I'm sorry to all my teachers if I'm really wrong. Let's say the speed of sound under certain humidity and all that. And when it bounces around, like all those energy particles, some of them cancel. So some of the frequency will cancel. That's why it's called a comb filtering. And some will just land together in the same phase and will amplify. So I think in a way our social interactions are kind of like comb filtering. Some of them just nullify themselves. People have totally opposite ideas and they're not even open to discuss them, like we just did earlier, and we didn't agree on that standardized test, which I would still call for, but it's just my opinion. And and some just get amplified because everyone is on the same wavelength, let's say. But yeah, I mean, going back to this propaganda in this new world of ours, I was talking with one parent of the kids. So I'm also teaching guitar at the local school, and we were just talking about this kind of, well, he called it a mental sickness of people not communicating to one another in like public transport, or even some public, I don't know, buildings of sorts, institutions. Yeah, whatever. So people usually have their headphones on, They're blasting some music, and they're checking their social media. And it's a bizarre concept. I mean, I'm a millennial, as I said in the last episode. So most of my life was kind of, in-person communication. I still remember early 2000s when we got affordable mobile phones and mobile technology in Romania. I mean, it existed for a while, but we got it a bit later. And man, we were mesmerized. So at first, nobody could afford even an SMS. Those were like freaking expensive.
They were expensive, yeah.
And then I still remember. So we had before Vodafone. We're not sponsoring or anything. Just mentioning whatever brands. We had something that was called Connex. And all the cool kids were with Connex, and I wasn't one of them because my dad insisted to go to the other company, of course. Anyways,
can't have it too easy.
No,
right?
You cannot, right? You have to suffer. Life is never ending. So anyway, and yeah,
but it's also love and happiness.
Also, not in Eastern Europe, but also, yeah.
Oh yeah. Even in Eastern Europe, come on.
Just kidding.
By the way, sorry, because I'm going mentally on a tangent right now because we were talking about sadness and suffering and happiness. Recently, the missus and I watched a movie on Netflix. It's called The Tale of the Princess Kaguya.
Oh.
And it's an animation movie.
All right. Okay.
And it has like this watercoloring, like brush type of style.
Okay,
it's
like
really
watercolors.
beautiful.
Yeah. Okay.
And the whole movie is driven by this dichotomy of being without suffering and in this Zen state of nirvana, let's say.
Right.
But also having this whole messy human state, let's say.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, suffering, sadness, pain, but also life and love and happiness. And it's a really, really great movie. So I think German Netflix still has it.
Yeah, we're not on Netflix anymore, but okay, maybe we can.
That's the only subscription service we still have. And it's a really beautifully made film. Mm-hmm. It's based on a Japanese story.
Okay.
So I really highly recommend
we might
watching
have
that.
seen it.
Yeah, it's great. Go watch it.
I think we saw it, but I'm not super sure. Anyways.
Yeah. So I don't want to spoil the story, so just go watch it. But it's
of course,
fantastic movie.
Going back to my early mobile phone and whatever thing. For us, so we had an epiphany when for calling, the first 3 seconds were free of charge. You cannot imagine how much conversation you can squeeze in a 3 seconds call. Yeah. Let's meet. And then they took it down to 2 seconds. And we still managed. And then they took it off because it was everyone was doing that. Us, so I was in high school, what was it, late 90s, and that was it. But so where I was going with this estrangement, I think it's even more dangerous than it seems, because we were talking about this silo thing, so we're getting separated in these bubbles. And we start all of a sudden getting a certain type of videos, like you said, Jordan Peterson. I also got a plethora of Jordan Peterson and others.
Yeah.
Right? So I was like, okay, let's watch this because I'm always curious and I always want to know more about almost everything.
Yeah.
And I also gelled with some of the ideas, but then I was like, wait, this is not the... No, wait, whoa. I lived a different reality and there is more than this, this is not exactly it. So sometimes, and I don't want to give this guy, I mean, also Joe Rogan, I watched his podcast and the YouTube version of it up until he started going on about aliens and other stuff. I was like, okay, you know? But I think it's okay to be curious. And again, like I was giving that example of the comb filtering, I think we should comb filter more or a lot more than we are. And we should interact more with everyone and everything and not get separated and not get sorted out in our small cell and small bubble by all these, I wouldn't say evil companies, but I mean, it's also kind of generalizing, right? I mean, yes, some of the ideas are evil, some of the methods and methodology.
Did you read the manifesto by Alex Karp recently?
No.
The Palantir CEO? Yeah, go read that and let's talk about not being evil.
No, I mean, yes. I mean, again, just at face level, if you name your company after a very evil magic, what was it? Stone. Like a crystal ball or stone ball in the Lord of the Rings, yes, by Tolkien. You know,
I mean, well, technically the stones per se were not evil. They were used for evil.
They were, imbued with a lot of power, and people tend to use power not for the best things ever.
It's boring not to abuse power if you have it.
True, I guess. I've never had that much power, so I cannot relate. But
thankfully you can't, yeah.
Yeah, so this guy was talking about estrangement and about people becoming islands. And yeah, I was curious about what you thought about it.
I agree, because it's also it ties back to what we said in the last podcast. If we talk face to face and I talk shit, the probability of me getting slapped in the face with a metal chair, you know? Sorry, kids, don't do that at home.
Yeah, don't.
It's just a manner of speaking. So the instant negative feedback is there.
Mm-hmm.
And I clearly remember, so I grew up with a big family. My dad had a lot of siblings, and if the family on my father's side, what do you say, erster Grad, so first removed, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's 60 or 65 people.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
big family. Yeah.
I grew up in a big family, and I can clearly remember the grown-ups getting together in the big living room and talking about all different topics, everything, religion, society, everything. And as a kid, you usually started just sitting there and listening, and then at some point, you thought you know something, so I'm gonna talk like the big guys, and then you get the first feedback. I mean, it was very nice, right? But you still get, in quotes, put in your place, right? And you very quickly see and learn, there's more to it, right? And even though that's not a comfortable situation for a kid or for grown-ups as well, by the way, if you have the chance to grow up in an environment that teaches you by showing you when you're wrong in a good way, and that's what we try to do with our kids, it kind of helps you course correct. There is also danger in there, because it can also force you in a certain direction that might not be the best. But you had this course correction on the let's say family level, and then you had the community level, because if you met with a group of friends, now these different views from different families, let's say, they come together. And again, I remember more than one situation where hands were flying inside my group of friends because somebody said something stupid and they didn't want to listen, right? So and boys being boys, again,
Yeah.
don't do that at home.
Yeah.
We kind of solve these situations initially with fist fights and so
Right.
on. So
Not
back
that
to-
girls are not getting violent sometimes.
no, but
yes.
you know, I'm a dude, so I can just talk from my own experience. If my girls are listening, don't.
Yeah, don't. Yeah, true.
Not worth it. But I think interacting with real people, that's the thing.
Yeah.
With real people is important because it creates usually a healthier type of friction. And that comes to back to what I said earlier. Like we need to talk with each other more in a good faith way, and we should talk and listen, especially to people we disagree with. Not to fight,
Yes. Yeah, of course. Yeah.
but we have been talking about Jordan Peterson or Joe Rogan in this podcast, but there are many other, let's say, people with a name, right? That I disagree with, and I try to make an effort to listen to them, and I try to find something I can agree with what they say, because it forces me to take that perspective and think through it. And at the end of the day, the result is, okay, I can understand why you're saying what you're saying, but I disagree. But now we have common ground, right? And I think that's what's important, and that's what we're missing.
No, I know. I mean, that's why I gave that example of the comb filtering, because
It's a pretty good one. I like it. I'll use it in the future.
That actually happens by default in nature, right? So some frequencies in this case get cancelled, some of them get amplified, and that's it. But you know, sometimes it's kind of hard to, if not totally hard, to get common ground with people that have been radicalized, like truly radicalized. Hard. So you are giving that example of physical justice, let's say. And you know, I find it funny. So I grew up in a very bad neighborhood in Bucharest. It was like bad, and
like knives and guns bad.
No guns, but knives. Yes, knives, and then heroin and police raids.
Also, don't do that stuff, kids.
No, don't. Like, but So what's funny is that in my generation, everybody was learning to fight, either directly without wanting to on the street, or going to some organized form of learning. And I did karate for many years, and some other of my friends and acquaintances,
peers.
Peers. It's colleagues, right? We were like classmates and stuff. Some of them were doing boxing, some of them kickboxing, whatever they found, right? Whatever was closer to them. Even though I was going like really far for my Shotokan karate, and I don't regret it. It was quite cool, but I find it quite funny in a way. I wouldn't say perplexing, but funny. Nowadays, there are, I think, generally speaking, many more people doing martial arts. Or at least whenever I'm talking to people, they're either going to a BJJ or a MMA or whatever kind of dojo, let's call it, like in the...
gym is the word, I think.
Yes, gym nowadays. Yeah, dojo is more traditional karate in Japanese. But there's not, fortunately, there's not a need for it anymore.
Yeah.
It used to be an actual need for it. So, for example, like I grew up in that sketchy neighborhood. I wouldn't say I used like any karate techniques, but somehow I got out of scuffles without too much damage. But nowadays, I think there are many more people doing this. Fortunately, I have to say, never testing it in real life. But a thing that I don't like is that some of them, they get a false sense of safety and a false sense of bravery.
Yeah, and competence.
And competence, which I find like truly awful. A couple of years back, I went to this dojo here. Well, it was just a school gym, but at night they either had judo training or what this thing was called in German, Allkampfkampf.
Okay.
Yes, I was like, okay, let's see what that is. I was curious, right?
Everything goes basically, right?
Right. So I was like, okay, let's see. So in translation, this would be like all fight something, I guess. Yeah. So they were doing basically traditional karate up until the end part of the training, where they were doing weapons training.
Wow. Okay.
Yes. So from defense against knives to guns, and there were kids. So I was one of the oldest ones there. Of course, the gi was mandatory, and I got my white belt because that's customary whenever you go to a new gym or a new dojo or dojong, like for the taekwondo and the Korean arts. You have to put whatever degree you have in your martial arts, you have to go back to white. So you're learning, right? So I had my white on, and so they started with knives. I did, I mean, in my time, I did do some knife training and stuff. I have to say now about all these warning kids, it's very, very dangerous. So, however competent you are, you might be a Krav Maga expert or whatever you are, you will most likely get cut. And I told them, like, nobody will attack like this. And they thought like, yeah, smart as, right? Okay, so show us smart pants. How would you do this? But slow, because it's a drill. Sure, slow. I did like a, the, how is it called? The sewing machine thing, like, yeah. They tried to catch the hand. They caught my hand in the way. You see? And then I dropped the knife and caught it with the other hand and basically... Yeah, stabbed the guy in his liver. So I told him, like, you have about 10 minutes more to live from this moment on. No, this is not... Okay, let's go for guns. Let's go for guns. They gave me a gun. I took 3 steps behind. No, not like this. You have to put it against my chest. Like, if I have a gun, I won't be sitting or standing anyway or anywhere near to you. And of course, we had to do the guy's drill, and he tried to trap my finger in the what is it, like the trigger guard, and I had my finger on top of it. No, you have to put it in. I will put it in there when I want to go click and boom, and you'll go down, most likely dead. Who showed you that? Well, someone who's been training like the special forces, and you never put your trigger finger on the trigger if you don't want to
actually trigger.
You have it on. No, that's not okay. Nobody will do that. I said, okay, let's do more of a gangsta thing. He tried his thing, it didn't work. I recouped the gun. So the thing that really triggered me to use this trigger example more or figuratively, I went for the pun, is that they were giving kids a false sense of trust in their own skills in life and death situation. And I kind of think that some influencers and some channels and some thought leaders, as you called that smarty pants guy who
They
said,
call themselves that.
yeah, of course, which is, I find like, wow, how smug can one be? But seems like there's no limit to the smugness.
I mean, to say it with the words of Tywin Lannister, you're not the king if you have to say you are the king, right?
I mean, yeah. So I was thinking about all this and how in the world are we supposed to treat with people who have been trained or have been convinced that they have they are more prepared for life, let's say, than they are, right? Because that kind of ties into my more radical solution of having a special exam to get the right to vote. I know, I'm going like a broken
Still
record.
not buying it.
You're not buying it because, of course, you're coming from a country who's been through this demonizing certain people and saying they some people are Untermenschen and so they are subhuman. But we are hearing this again. We're hearing like people called vermin, people that are called enemy of the state, enemy of the people. Like we all heard that before.
Yeah.
Right? You guys heard it, well, was basically would have been your grandpa's generation. We heard it in our parents' generation. For example, my parents, going back again, just a bit to the dark side of things, they were tailed by the security service, the secret police, because they were against the regime. So I grew up in a family who used to put a huge pillow on the phone and used to play music very loud so they could have a normal conversation without being listened to.
Overheard, yeah.
Because they were, actually. And we knew who the agent was our neighbor from the 6th floor, right? And we had to say, hello, good day, have a nice day, because, right? Because life is not an 80s American film where you can just kill whomever you want and you make your own justice, right? The Feist Justiz.
I mean, thank science, I guess, or whatever you want to thank.
And modern society.
That's not a thing. We are in the lucky situation, and I want to really emphasize that we do not need fighting skills. Like, I also grew up in a more shady part of town.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the kids I used to play with in the park actually got stabbed when we were like 13 or something. So, and I was in a few altercations, let's say, myself. Some went better, some didn't go so well. And it taught me a lot of things. And I am very happy that my kids grow up in a society where, like, when that happened, I was like, you boys, it's just okay. You know? And so we're making progress. And I think it's also, with all the things that are not going right and well right now, I think it's also really important to highlight these things. Like, we thankfully do not need actual fighting skills, and people have enough time to to mature and get old enough to actually see the folly in their assumption of being prepared for life,
right,
without the harsh consequences that it could have had 20 or 30 years ago.
No, I'm actually very happy for that too. So maybe my message earlier was not clear enough. So I'm very happy that people don't need all those skills. Unfortunately, there are some other people who are ready to sell them false assurances.
Snake oil.
Right? Yeah. And yes, you're ready to do this and you can do that. And God forbid they ever have to. Oof. But on a more brighter note, because we're kind of, I would say, we're approaching the end of this wonderful episode. I think we kind of have this innate sense of danger as humans.
Yeah.
And we kind of smell the bullshit when it's coming from all over the place. We have this thing. We're kind of, let's say our common sense. I don't know if this is the right word, but whatever, right? And
let's roll with the punches.
Yeah, let's be more like Cartesius, and let's say that, you know, this le bon sens, this common sense, is prevalent amongst us. And I think it is. I think we all kind of feel like boxed in by all this social media. And so neither of us is digitally native, but I mean, I think both of us, we kind of knew the world before it went fully digital and fully internet linked, let's say, and all that. And we can still, I mean, maybe we have a slight advantage in that because we knew the world before and as it was, right? So even then, there was a lot of lying and a lot of manipulation via TV, newspapers, whatever, radio, what have you. But now it gets even more targeted. So before it was like one size fits all, right? It was broadcasted on radio, TV, whatever, and it was like for everyone. And even though you had more elitist, let's say, magazines maybe, or radio shows or what have you, right?
Newspapers or whatever.
Right? Yeah. So you had some kind of targeting, but in no way, shape or form was like it is, right?
The data that targeting nowadays is based on alone is insane. Like there are instances of supermarkets in the US sending ads and like coupons and stuff for baby stuff to women that were pregnant before the women actually knew they were pregnant, because statistics and the amount of data they had were so good that they knew who to target with this stuff.
Right. And I think that's even scarier, but still I see people, right, also our age and younger and older, who kind of like have this sense of something is not right and something is off. And no, I don't believe that. I don't trust that. And I have to check that again and again and again. And what are the sources? And you were giving the example of the cat and the clavicula, which might be or might not be. And your daughter said, let's just use an LLM of sorts and let's just figure it out. And it's kind of the same thing. So whenever I'm using an LLM...
We didn't, by the way. We looked it up the old-fashioned way.
Right. But if you're using... By the way, this is kind of advice. I don't usually do that, like advice to whomever, but this is a tried and true thing. I've learned from someone else. Always ask the LLM for its sources, to give the sources as links, as whatever they might be, because most LLMs, if not all, they are trained to please us and they are sycophantic machines, unfortunately. They could be the biggest, one of the biggest leaps in human advancement, I would say, if they would be not as sycophantic, and they would correct you when you're wrong and even put you in your place
Kind of, yeah.
going about like how things were going in your family, right? You and in my family as well. I mean, if you're going out of line, well, you found out very fast
Yes.
that it was not the case to do that, and you were not supposed to talk to your elders
Yeah.
in that way. Yes, and you know what? Even though that's what's now called hard love, I think there's a lot of value in that. So, I'm not talking about physical punishment or anything like that, but having one of those talks with one of your aunts, parents, whomever they might be, you might find out some more things, and it will prepare you for life. So, don't take anything at face value. Take everything, including everything we just talked about here, with a pinch of salt, if not two. And, check your sources. Don't get premature ideas about anything. Leave them to develop a bit. And, keep on communicating, because that's key. I have nothing else.
That's a good way to end the podcast. So thank you very much for joining in, and I'll hope to see you next time.
All right, guys. See you next time. Ciao.
Ciao, ciao.